cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. In 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer.
For those of you who don't know, that's Debbie Wasserman Schultz, one of every Democrat who did not stand up to celebrate the miraculous survival story of a 12-year-old kid who literally survived brain cancer. None of them got up and clapped for that moment, and I'll get to that in a second. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a special level of ugly human. The caption, I don't know who Greg is snacking, says, you know what's even uglier than Debbie Wasserman Schultz's ratty hair? Her partisan ghoul heart. Here she is not clapping for a kid beating his brain cancer. It gets worse if you can believe it. There was a part of the State of the Union, or whatever we want to call that address yesterday, where Trump said, I could literally cure cancer. He didn't say it quite as humoristically, because the punchline would have been, I could literally cure cancer, and Democrats would complain that I put doctors out of work. They literally did not clap for a 12-year-old boy who survived brain cancer. There's a longer clip right here, which I'll play just for the sake of it.
Daniel is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer.
Let's see if we can see the side of the ghouls not standing to celebrate this kid. Keep going here. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It's a special level of evil to not clap and celebrate a child who beat brain cancer. They didn't stand up and clap when Trump announced he was naming a nature reserve after a 12-year-old who was brutally murdered. They don't stand and applaud, cheer for that, or commemorate that. They don't stand and commemorate Laken Riley. We all know her story. It gets even worse, however, if there's anything worse than not standing and celebrating a 12-year-old boy who survived brain cancer, who was deputized by Trump's new head of Secret Service. Listen to this. I try not to swear, but I've been failing miserably lately.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
Can you appreciate the next level evil to that? You take a 12-year-old boy who aspires to be a cop, and then you equate it. I hope he doesn't take his life. Wink, wink, nod. You know what that is? That is the David Mamet, every fear hides a wish. I hope he doesn't take his life like 6 of those other Capitol police officers. Lord knows why there's so many, and Lord knows why they actually took their lives. They might not have taken their lives because of the events of that day, but perhaps because of the reprisals that they experienced from their higher-ups in the later days and the weeks after that. Set that aside. I sure hope he doesn't do that, because if he did, well, my goodness, he would have then suffered the consequences of his political decisions. That's exactly what that Itchbay was saying right there. And then you go from Itchbays to jackasses, and then you got Jamal Bowman, who tweeted out, all the Dems should have left with Al Green. This is the same Jamal Bowman who didn't know what a fire exit looked like and pulled a fire escape and whatever, to interrupt official proceedings, but he doesn't get charged. I see the issue is, had they gotten up and left, that would have been better than staying and keeping their disgusting asses seated instead of celebrating a 12-year-old boy. They are the personification of spiritual evil. And the world saw it yesterday, and my God, I hope they don't forget. Absolute scum of the earth, filth. They are world-class pieces of shit. Well, how many minutes are we in? 5 minutes in? Well, that's it. We just got binked. World-class pieces of shit. The world saw it last night, and may the world never forget. Oh, now it's not all going to be bad news for the intro people, because that was the intro rant. We're going to have Pat King on in about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. We're going to go from that awful taste of Democrats being the demon rats that they are, and we're going to wash that awful taste out of our mouth with some beautiful, tasty coffee. 1775 coffee, people. Rumble partner, delicious coffee. Where's my coffee? It's in the other room now. Some coffee is weak, people. Some coffee is sad. Some coffee is so bad it probably votes Democrat. But 1775 is bold, strong. It's America first in every single cup. The dark roast hits harder than a Trump comeback. The medium roast, smooth, no bitterness, just like before Bidenomics. And the Vitality Mushroom Blend fuels your brain like a Trump State of the Union address. This is coffee that patriots drink, that rumblers drink, and that I drink. Small farms, small batches, roasted fresh in Miami every week, because your coffee should be fresher than a White House press briefing trying to explain what the Biden administration did to this country. Whole beans, grounds, or pods, they've got it all. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use promo code VIVA for 15% off and start every morning with a coffee that actually stands for something. Oh, by the way, and don't forget, and you'll be seeing these other ads coming from 1775 Coffee. Every dollar you spend gets you entered into the raffle to win the Tesla Cybertruck that I had for a week. Beautiful car. And $30,000 cash. So go to 1775coffee.com. Get yours today. Support a company that supports free speech and build that parallel economy. And speaking of parallel economy, Rumble Premium, people. First of all, I've been very bad at telling everybody or reminding everybody, download the app. You want immediate notifications when I go live. Download the Rumble app. You get like instantaneous notifications. Some people say, oh, I don't get the notifications, but you're using the desktop. But there's nothing wrong with that. But you download the Rumble app and you get immediate notifications. Like the conversion rate or notifications is virtually 100% on Rumble compared to like whatever it is on CommuTube. So download the Rumble app. And also, if you want to support the free speech company, go to Rumble Premium, because free speech is under attack and Rumble will not be backing down. We've always believed in empowering voices, no matter how unpopular, and now we're taking that fight to the next level. When major advertisers conspired to pull their dollars, we knew what happened. Even brands, the Dunkin' Donuts is like the American version of Tim Hortons, watered down tripe for coffee. But they decided they didn't want to advertise on Rumble because it had a, quote, right-wing culture. And there's a way to fight back to that. To strengthen the mission for free speech at Rumble, we're excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and creators. You'll find exclusive content from content creators like Russell Brand, Dr. Disrespect, Timcast, Mug Club with Crowder. Timcast just joined. We were talking about it actually the day before yesterday when I was on the show. It's amazing. It's more than a subscription. It's a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. For a limited time, you get $10 off the annual pricing plan. It's $10 a month. Go to rumble.com/premium/Viva10 and you'll get $10 off the annual plan. So that is the promo code for your discount. Together we can turn the tide. Whether you join Rumble Premium or simply keep watching, support the platform that supports free speech and content creators like myself to continue engaging and giving voices to those who don't necessarily have a voice or whose voice are being suppressed in that commie hellhole of a country called Canada. And I'm not going to say the unfavorable voices like Pat King, because I think I've always said this. In fact, I don't think I've ever said I've always liked Pat King. I think he got himself into some trouble. I think they definitely took some things that he said out of context. I know there was some political, fighting and infighting with the trucker convoy. I have always liked Pat King, despite what everyone says. Pat, are you ready to come in?
Good morning, man.
I've always liked you, despite what everyone says. I'm joking, by the way, because the only people who ever say anything bad about you sincerely have no idea who you are. They know you've been on a few edgy podcasts. They know that you've had a few clips taken out of context and have been thoroughly demonized by the state-funded media. But Pat, it's good to see you again.
Thanks, man.
You're under house arrest, aren't you?
I am. I'm on day 74. 74 days left, man.
Day 74 left. How many did you have? You had 90?
I got 90 days house arrest, 1 year's probation.
Okay, but before I even get into this, because, there's having your house turned into a prison like we had during curfew. And then when you're under 24/7 curfew, that's turning your home into a prison. Before we get any further, just the briefest of summary will refresh everybody's memory as to where you're from, how you got to where you are, and then where you are now. Who are you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm Pat King, better known as the convoy that ended all the mandates across Canada, along with a group of other fantastic people that all got together back 3 years ago. In the interim, I live in Red Deer, Alberta right now. I'm presently in transition, though. I'll be moving to Montreal here momentarily once this is all put behind us in the next 74 days. And, you know, I'm just a Canadian guy that was pissed off. I started off doing some investigative reporting with what was happening with Justin Trudeau and what he was doing to our oil and gas industry out here in Alberta as being an oil and gas guy. We were questioning the Bill C-68 and C-69 and C-48 that he put in, which was the anti-pipeline moratoriums for us and the anti-harbor moratoriums for getting our resources to market. He also allowed a $42 billion infrastructure project to leave Alberta and be given to the Chinese Communist Party in Kitimat, BC. So I was wondering and asking questions and stuff of what was going on, why was he doing this, and trying to get, you know, answers from politicians. So then they weren't giving it to us, so I decided to start doing my own investigative reporting, and boy, did I ever open up a can of worms. We started investigating the influence, the foreign influence into Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party. This was before it ever became popular. We were speaking on behalf of Chinese assets on Canadian soil, protecting and securing their project up in Kitimat and Prince Rupert. When I did that, obviously, it came with a lot of backlash. It came with a racist rhetoric from the mainstream media. And one of the main ones was because I was asking why it was appropriate for others to be able to cancel us out. And in the United Nations, a gentleman by the name of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who was the president of Iran at the time, had said some pretty provocative racist comments. And all I did was reiterate those comments and paraphrase exactly what he said. And of course, the left wing and the mainstream grabbed it, copied it, edited it, and set it up perfectly to label me the way it's been labeled. But what they were was they're just trying to detract from the story. They're trying to push the attention away that the fact that we have so much foreign influence in Canada and how bad our country is on the economic level. And I'm talking 9 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, not talking about today.
To situate temporally, this is not even 2019. This is 2016, 2017, give or take?
Yeah, right around 2018, 2019.
Okay.
So in doing so, we ended up pushing a convoy, a small one, 175, 180 trucks to Ottawa to stand up for our oil and gas industry. And when we did, we were quite successful. So we were there for 3 days. We protested on the Hill. We honked our horns. We had barbecues. We all had a great time. And we said our speeches, at which time politicians met with us. And I've got video of us shaking hands with Andrew Scheer, Poilievre, Bernier, a couple other ones. Trudeau obviously didn't show up again. But as we left after the 3 days, our pipeline sanctions were lifted and we were allowed to get back to work again out here. So it was a successful campaign. Now fast forward to 2022, when we're all shut down, locked down, forced jobs, losing our jobs, losing our businesses. People are dying because of suicides. People are just in utter strife across Canada. They have started to attack the trucking industry. Upon trucking in Canada is a vital, vital part of our survival, especially during the winter times. And Justin was trying to implement the mandatory jibby jabs for truckers and cross-border truckers in particular. In our industry, or in our livelihood here in Canada, the industry of the trucking industry is unsurmountable during the wintertime. We need that cross-border trucking to bring the goods over and be able to sustain ourselves throughout the winter months because we don't have the luxury of 365 days of sunshine. So
and just so people appreciate, I mean, I know there's a lot of Americans watching, they might not appreciate. Canada and the US are roughly the same size and landmass. Canada's a little bigger with a tenth the population. And so it's trucking and I say getting things from one city to the next. You're traveling across massive expanses of land. It is not that it's more important in Canada than the States. You're just dealing with a landmass that's bigger with a tenth the population. So
exactly, yeah. So when they started to do that, we saw the hindrance that is the possibility of, you know, we got our grocery prices are going to skyrocket at a time when nobody's working. Everybody's shut down. And then not only that, how much these trailers are going to be stuck on the other side of the border till they can find somebody. And not only that, truckers are an independent worker. They're not around people. They're in and out of their trucks. They're hooking on the load, and that's it. They're not in big groups of people. So the concern was very serious for us up here, at which time we got together and we decided, hey, we did this in 2019. Why not? Let's try something like this again. And it worked last time. It'll work this time. Politicians will come out. They'll say, hey, we hear you. And then we'll get up and we'll go. Well, as fast forward to the day, they never came out. I think Pierre came in and gave a bunch of donuts to some of the truckers and had a little photo op. Justin absolutely ran and hid into Tofino, BC, and then up into Harrington Cottage, and never did come out and acknowledge us. So that made people basically stay, because no politicians. And we were planning on staying as long as the mandates were still in place. We weren't going anywhere.
But I want to highlight something, because I'm can be very ignorant sometimes. When they were imposing the vaccine mandate on truckers, and I'm like, everyone's saying it's a very lonely job in the first place, and it's like, what? All they do is that you'll drive, you go to a hotel, and then come back. When you stay the night, and then people like Viva, truckers sleep in the back section of their van. It's like a solo job the entire time. To impose a vaccine mandate on people who work, I mean, this is not a judgment or anything. This is just like the reality of the job. Work alone all day long is the most tyrannical, abusive, arbitrary, and idiotic measures in the first place. They don't even typically go to hotels to mingle with other people. And so when they were talking of imposing the vaccine mandate on truckers, did they did in fact impose it for a while, correct?
Yeah. So when we started rallying the troops and getting everybody up and going, and we were working with law enforcement, so a lot of people don't know this, weeks in advance, we were having meetings with law enforcement, Ottawa Police Services, OPP, RCMP, and Parliamentary Police Services, getting out the logistics and planning out where we were going to park. Justin Trudeau noticed it was garnering a lot of attention. And when he did, 2 days prior to leaving, he decided to drop the mandates on the truckers. But it wasn't just the truckers' mandates we were going for. We were going for everybody's mandates on this. People should have been able to have that freedom of choice. So we started to head down the highway. I believe it was January 23rd. We left here. I left here in Calgary and started heading down the highway. We arrived on the evening of January 28th in Ottawa, and we parked for 3 weeks on the grounds in Ottawa, honking our horns and basically letting them hear us, getting our voices heard in some manner, because the government would not listen to us. They wouldn't take any of our letters to the MPs. They wouldn't take any of our phone calls, anything like that. They just weren't listening to us.
And people also, it's tough to piece the timeline together. At this time, there was still the ban for unvaccinated to use trains and planes to cross the country. And in
absolutely,
the same size as the US, but a tenth the population, that's kind of a crippling measure for medical discrimination. So the trucker, and I don't want to get into the politics, because I know there is like not disagreement, disputes, who started it, who co-opted it, whatever. I remember it being something totally organic and having several heads to the organization of the trucker protest.
100%. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. There was no single one person that did it and put it out there. Now, a lot of people want to give that claim to fame. You go ahead, take the charges as well. So some of them that are sitting out there claiming that they are the ones that did it never took any charges. At the same time, I didn't want to see anybody get charged. But the controversy that comes with that is just internal. It's internal between us. And that'll come out one day when people decide that they want to sit around the table and get this out and have everybody a little bit of transparency of what really went on, what truly was going on behind the scenes. But at the same time, it was very organic. It was 100%. I can tell you, when we started traveling down the highway from my leg of it in Calgary, heading down, we watched it growing all the way down the highway. There'd be like 5-6 people. Then next thing you know, at the next exit, there was like 100 people. The next exit after that, a couple hundred people, and so on and so forth, till we reached Winnipeg. And when we come around the corner in Winnipeg, there was 50,000 people, I would say, all lined up down the highway, all the way down around the ring road to heading towards Highway 17 East Highway 17 East heading to Kenora, Ontario. That's when we knew, holy shit, this is getting big, guys. We've got to we got to get prepared for this. So law enforcement, all of that, we're talking with everybody. All of us had our liaison officers. This group had their group, that group had their group, that group had their group. Now, when we get to Ottawa, we were welcomed with open arms. We were told, here's your map. Come park on these streets. In fact, we're going to escort you in and park you on these streets. We're going to put you in these places. And then as soon as they put us into those places, they put Jersey barriers to block us. So they blocked us on, and that's just a risk mitigation. And it's understandable why they did that, because in case somebody did have an extreme political agenda and may have used or utilized their vehicle to do something nefarious, we had a contingency plan in place so that couldn't happen. But unfortunately, with the city planners of Ottawa and the city planner and the law enforcement getting those Jersey barriers removed to be able to leave or to be able to exit the protest, it was an arduous task. We had to call your liaison officer, then your liaison officer had to call a city working advisor, and then the city worker advisor had to notify the worker that needed to come in with the picker or the tool or the equipment to remove the barrier. Then the logistics had to come in with the law enforcement to guide them in and out. And it became a logistics nightmare for us to even get out of there. So a lot of people, we just stayed. We stayed on the intentions of nobody was going to leave until these mandates were lifted. Then they started to lift them the provincial mandates. So they made it look like, oh, we were lifting them anyways, but no, they lifted them because we were there. Now, once they lifted them only provincially. They didn't lift them federally. And we had in our possession many, many documents and NDAs from teachers, from nurses, from doctors that were proving that the federal government was actually boots on their neck if they even spoke out about this. And those mandates that were on our federal workers needed to be lifted as well. But you see, they wouldn't lift the mandate on the federal workers. So we decided we're going to stand for our federal workers too. We're going to make sure that you can have some freedom and be able to travel and get on a plane or a train or a bus if you didn't want to have that job. Unfortunately, a lot of the federal workers all took it and got it. And that was their choice. And a lot of things that people don't understand, that in downtown Ottawa, it was many, many different diverse groups of people, including vaccinated and unvaccinated. There were people there just in support of the fact that they wish that they had their body, their choice. There should have never been this boots on our neck. So we get into it. We're protesting. We're rallying. Everything's having a good time. It was like Woodstock. We are having barbecues and dance parties and no violence, no damage to property. In fact, the downtown Ottawa core was clean as clean could be. It's never seen it that clean.
Yeah, cleaner and safer than I've ever seen it. I went back a couple of years later for an event, and I didn't even walk out of the hotel after dark. It was
exactly. And I remember speaking to a business owner saying, "I'm robbed at least 3 times a week, and since you guys have been here, I feel the most safest at my business than I've ever felt in my whole life of being downtown Ottawa and working down here."
One thing, the NDAs, the NDAs refer to the agreements that federal employees had that related to maintaining the mandates or coercing compliance.
The coercion and compliance, along with they weren't allowed to go on social media to discuss their distaste in it. They weren't allowed to have an opinion. They weren't allowed to have any objection to the jab on their social media, or they were instantly fired or given leave without pay.
Have any of these had those NDAs? Have they ever been published?
Absolutely, they have. Yeah. They're out there right now. The teachers one was a big one, and our frontline nurses, who were actually the ones who were successful in proving their NDA, they were also the ones that were successful in proving that the Emergencies Act was unjustified, with Justice Mosley's finding that the Emergencies Act never met its criteria. And that's where Justin right now is appealing that his Emergency Act was justified, but they're in an appeal process right now. So the nurses all had theirs out. A couple doctors were in there with them, behind them as well. I don't have a copy of them on me right now, but I'm sure I could go and find them. They're not hard to find.
Okay, well, see, maybe in Cryptis or the Viva equivalent of the Jamie is going to. We'll see if we can find one, because I thought I recalled seeing them, but there's a lot of documents that get confused over the years.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's lots of stuff, lots of material out there.
Yeah, but just before we get into the charges that you caught for the protest, back in 2018, 2019, did you get any charges or did you receive any charges for those protests?
Nope, nothing.
You got a bunch of COVID tickets. I remember that.
The COVID tickets. Yeah. So I did get a COVID ticket. I got a ticket for being in a group larger than 10. And that was a $1,200 fine. At which time I subpoenaed our chief medical officer of health, Dina Hinshaw, under a private prosecution to prove that her mandates were illegal and that she didn't have the science to back up the virus. Now, $1,200 provincial ticket. Walks in 2 attorney general prosecutors from Ottawa on a provincial matter and deemed that I didn't have the authority to subpoena a government official. But at the meantime, in my exhibit A, B, and C, I had requested for the isolation of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, not in a from a diseased patient, not in a lab, not from a PCR test, and not generated on a computer program. I wanted the actual scientific papers to prove that they had isolated the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now, in my documents, it said that the reason why you can't subpoena a government official is because you have to have a judge subpoena. But needless to the fact, Dina Hinshaw does not have the medical evidence you are requesting to prove the science behind the mandates. Fast forward a couple months after, and what we get is what's called the Ingram case in Alberta. And in the Ingram case was a bunch of business owners who fought against Dina Hinshaw's expertise in stating that she is the chief medical officer of health. Her expertise should be the ones guiding and implementing mandates as per her expertise. And we found out that it was her guidelines and mandates that were implemented via a non-government organization such as the World Health Organization. And she wasn't really acting in her professional manner, which therefore deemed all mandates illegal. And we won the case. In fact, I got the refund check where they gave me my money back for my fine. Well, and everybody else was fine.
I had on, it was, now I forget, Jeffrey Rath, who was, it was a Rath and Rath, I think is the law firm behind that, where they have been declared invalid at the provincial level. And that's a legal fact. I'm reluctant. I always reluctant to get into the argument as to whether or not they isolated it, because I think there's a disagreement and a misunderstanding as to what that means. Yes. I'm of the opinion that we have two mutually incompatible theories here. One is that it doesn't exist, they never isolated it. The other is that it's a gain of function research that escaped from a lab in Wuhan, China. I don't believe that it has. As far as what I understand of these arguments, I don't believe that it doesn't exist. I believe that it does exist and that it was the result of gain of function research. But and people get hung up on this in terms of discrediting or writing off someone's point of view. The bottom line is, these measures in Hinshaw's measures were declared unlawful. People can call it a ploy by the province, which had new administration. They said, we're going to abandon it and declare them unlawful. And that's just a matter of fact now, legal fact. The only question is how much, if anything, are people going to get compensated for what these unlawful ultra-virus measures were? If anybody wants to refresh their memory, go watch my interview with Rath on that. So you had caught some of these tickets. Prior to this, and I think I asked you this the first time we had the interview, did you you didn't have like a troubled criminal past history before any of this?
No. I had a young offender record. That was it.
Okay, because it's kind of also important to appreciate the, I would say, disparate but politically motivated treatment that you got for nonviolent mischief charges. It's not like you were a repeat offender. You're pretty decent, upstanding Canadian, even if some,
even the judge says I was a decent, upstanding citizen. I've got the receipts. I'm going to read some of the stuff off to you.
No, the one thing I know we got to bring it up. I get mixed up between some of the statements that are attributed to you versus Chris Sky. It was you where they took that clip of catching a bullet. Someone's going to catch a bullet.
That's me. Yeah,
that was your clip. Yeah. And that's the only one where people want to say, "Oh, he said something so terrible." And you said, if they keep this up, someone's going to catch a bullet, and everybody understands what is meant by that statement. So that came up, or did that come up in the context of your mischief charges, prosecution, sentencing, or whatever?
They used it in my bail hearings. They never were able to use it in my trial because it was months and months and months prior to that. So when they started putting and implementing the travel bans, I was at the Pearson International Airport getting ready to fly back to Alberta. And I had got a email from WestJet saying that the travel bans were coming on, but those who booked by a certain date, You have 72-hour window to get your flight, and we're not going to implement the travel ban on you. I get into the airport. I go to get my boarding. I've already got my boarding pass. I go to get my ticket for my luggage at the kiosk, and I'm flagged at the kiosk. And I'm like, what the hell? So I'm flagged at the kiosk. They're telling me I have to go to the desk. I go to the desk. The girl looks up and she goes, oh, Pat King. And I went, pardon me? How do you know who I am? And she's like, just 1 minute. I'm sorry, Mr. King, you're not allowed on the flight. I said, what? I'm not allowed on the flight. She says, yeah. Can you show me proof of vaccination? I said, I don't have to prove my vaccination. Where in Canada do I ever have to show you I'm vaccinated? So obviously my spidey senses are up. Something's going on. And then she's telling me, well, no, sorry, we're not allowed to let you on the flight. I said, I have your email right here. And I showed her the email. I said that I have 72 hours. Oh, sorry. We fast forwarded it. We upped it another 24 hours. So I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you're going to have to find other means to get back home. And I said, this is direct targeting towards me and my stance on the mandates. Is this not? And she says, I can't speak to that. And she was a bitch, like absolute nose out of joint over it. I wasn't the only one. There was 3 or 4 other people that were getting the same treatment because they didn't have their vax passes. So I'm mad. I'm like, I can't get a flight out of Toronto. I need to be back home for my kids. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm stuck in Pearson International. And I went outside to have a smoke. And I'm pissed. Like, I'm mad, man. Like, I'm throwing my suitcases and everything. And I'm like, how in the hell am I going to get home? I'm kind of in panic mode. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm out $700 on my flight. I'm like, what do I do? So I went on a live. And I just said, you know what, guys? I was just banned from flying in my own country. And on my passport, it says, please allow this man to have a free travel. And I said, one of these days, these governments are going to implement things against the people. And there's going to be that one person who has a few screw loose and he's going to make you catch a bullet. And to the rest of you politicians, you're going to get it too, because you're going to push people so freaking hard and so much over the edge that they're going to retaliate. And you got to stop this stuff. This is nonsense.
And I'm look, I full disclosure, I like you. I also saw that clip in context. And the amazing thing is you can never find it any longer than a 7-second clip on Twitter if you go. And I know what you were saying. Some might call it every fear hides a wish. I know that there were some people who were adopting an Oscar Wilde type of, or was it oh geez, the other guy who says everything. Who's the one that all quotes are attributed to Mark Twain? You know, I've never wished a person dead, but I've read many an obituary with delight. You know, whether people say that's it's not a call to action, it's a figure of speech, and also a realistic prediction. You ruin people's lives, someone will snap. It's not a wish, it's not a threat, it's just human nature. And anyone who heard that in any longer context than 7 seconds would know that. That was the best the media could get. Is you said, keep this up, someone's going to catch a bullet because you're ruining people's lives.
That's correct. Yeah. And not only that, like you're damaging businesses and homes. And I had already lost 2 friends to suicide because they had already lost everything and created bad havoc in their family and divorce and stuff. And they ended up taking their lives. And I'm just like, you're pushing people too far. So then I get home and everything keeps going. And this is months and months before we decided to do the convoy. Now, they also use that in the Fifth Estate video. And Jillian was trying to label me as an insurrectionist and all of this in the Fifth Estate video. And there's a lawsuit towards that coming as well against CBC. So we're all right with that. But what they just kept trying to dirty my name and do everything they could to dirty it. And then we fast forward to February 18th, 2022. After 3 weeks of being on Wellington Street, I end up getting arrested. And I get arrested for several things and end up doing 150 days in jail without bail. Had 2 bail hearings, but they kept being denied. You got to stop there. This is when I talk about political prisoners. If anybody thinks it's hyperbolic, you're an idiot. You're probably the same type of idiot that's celebrating removal of Jack Daniels from the liquor stores in Canada. You were charged with non-violent mischief charges. Absolutely.
One of them was, and it was like, well, he was counseling to obstruct mischief, lying during his bail hearings. So they arrest you under bullshit charges, detain you for non-violent mischief. It's not like mischief, like burning down or throwing a Molotov cocktail, which could be worse, but could be mischief, causing damage or non-violent mischief. And they denied you bail. I remember it, and I remember what you looked like when you came out. You look much better now. Not a backhanded compliment. You look like someone would look after being detained in shitty conditions. They denied you bail how many times?
So the first time I was denied bail was in the initial 78 or 72 hours in. That gave me a mandatory 30-day lockup. Then it took a while to get a case. I got a second bail. That's when my lawyer's computers got hacked in the middle of our trial, conveniently. And then because I didn't know my surety well enough, because we got our dates wrong of when we met back in the day, the Crown decided to charge me with a perjury, which threw me back in jail again, which ended up giving me 90 days till I can have a bail review. Because once you miss your second bail review, it goes to 90 days. You have to wait for another bail review. In the meantime, I went lawyer shopping and found myself a pit bull by the name of Natasha Calvino out of Ottawa. And she was successful to finally get me released on July 18th, 2022, after 5 months of being in there. But the only way she could get me released was with the most extreme conditions for a non-violent offense.
It was, I think there were travel restrictions. You couldn't go near the Ottawa core. You couldn't post on social media. I don't think you could make any public statements about the case.
No interviews, no protesting, no freedom of assembly. I've been debanked still to this day. I don't have my bank accounts back. I was under house arrest, basically curfew from 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock in the morning for over 2 years. I was not able to basically, well, I wouldn't say not able to have much freedom, but I wasn't able to go anywhere after 10 o'clock without somebody supervising me, such as my surety, to even have to go out to the bar or have a drink or attend a concert or anything like that. I couldn't do things like that. And let's not forget, I don't have a criminal record. I have a young offender record, and I don't have a record. I'm not a serious criminal, but I was treated like worse than
a terrorist, worse than a terrorist. It's not like a flight risk. Take someone's passport, they won't cross the border. This was for non-violent mischief, counseling, defying police orders, and for the protest. I always bring up the classic contrast is that the dude who ran his car into the trucker protesters in Winnipeg was granted bail. It was great. It was a big bail, 750 or maybe 250 or 750,000 was granted bail. You were in jail for how many days before you finally got out?
I was in jail for 151 days, but the conditions in jail when I first went in there were even 10 times more worse. I was isolated in solitary confinement for 68 days.
Why?
Under the fear of 1, COVID, 2, that I was going to start a prison riot. So they needed to keep me isolated from the rest of the population in jail. Then I was released after 68.
Before you even stop there, how many? You said 68 days?
68 days in isolation, which is locked up in a cement room on a cement bed with a 1-inch pad for some kind of comfort. Blood and shit all over the walls, pardon my language, all over the walls in the place. It was very disgusting. It's basically where they threw your problematic prisoners, your prisoners that had serious mental health issues. So the screaming all day long in there. The treatment from the guards where they would come and kick your doors. I had to actually put socks over my eyes because they left the lights on 24 hours a day. They never let the lights off. I didn't know what day was what. You have no windows to see outside. And it's just absolute sheer torture. In my mind, that was torture.
It is torture. It's I don't know if it's United Nations. It's internationally recognized as torture. How does one, or I mean, I guess you only know your experience. How do you navigate through that psychologically? It's projecting my own fears and terrors. I can't imagine anything worse. Above and beyond the isolation is one thing. The lights on, the psychological. You're listening to people. I mean, I can envision what it's like. It's horror. How do you navigate yourself through that?
In a lot of it, I'm not gonna lie, there was a couple moments where you break. You're just like, why me? Why me? Why me? You have a little bit of a crying episode in your shirt, and you try not to show anybody that, but there was many a moment there, you tend to, after about About day 11, I turned into a heathen. I started smashing the door, and I started freaking out. And I started, I'm getting claustrophobic. The walls are coming in on you. You go through a psychological snap after being in there for that amount of time. And that was only 11 days. And when you get out, on the moments that you do get out to go to have a shower or whatever, that's the other thing too. I was only allowed a shower every 3 days, where they would come and get me and take me to the shower room. And it was either 20 minutes you could use the shower, or you can make a phone call. Well, I needed to make phone calls for lawyers. I didn't have anybody I could talk to. So I had to do a whole bunch of stuff. Anyways, there was no psychotic break, but a lot of emotional breaks, where you'd be just fine at 1 minute. They'd give you a book to read, and you'd have a book, but I did what I could, because I wasn't on suicide watch, so I was allowed a pencil to write, and a book, like a notepad, so that I could write. Then after that, here's the best one. I'm a positive prisoner, I guess, a good prisoner. They decide they're going to move me from isolation once they were feeling that they were safe and it wasn't going to be a concern for them. They moved me up to what was called one wing, which is the maximum security wing, where they're actually holding the CSIS guy, who is being held for 7 years now for selling secrets to the Chinese or something like that. He's held in OCDC in that wing. I was housed with a double homicide man who actually killed 2 people, and like absolute psychotic. And I was housed with him 24 hours a day for 33 days.
In the same cell.
In the same cell, yeah, locked down with a psycho.
Yeah, and a schizophrenic, mentally
absolutely gangbanger who killed 2 men.
I just want to get back to the pencil, and I'm not trying to be funny. Was it a long pencil or a short pencil?
No, it was about that big, just tiny.
So like, even if you had self-harm thoughts, it's not something you could possibly do anything with. I'll add point blank. Did you ever think of smashing your head against the wall until it was over?
No, I'm not. I want no, because that would have made it even worse. Because then they do what's called a baby doll, and they put you on suicide watch. They take your mattress away, and you got to lay on a cement, like a cement pad. Oh. And you're given one of those woolly, really harsh fire blankets and no clothes. So I made sure never to do anything like that, because I was not going to be put in even worse treatment.
And now the psychotic double homicide gangbanger, he's not just accused, he's convicted, which is why he's there.
Yeah.
If I'm picturing it, I skip demographics, just physique. Is this a big, burly, ripped individual?
He was pretty big. He was pretty ripped. Yeah. And 1,000-yard stare, like that look, that look that they give you, that you can tell somebody's got a little bit of the brain cells aren't firing in the proper directions upstairs. So
you're sleeping in the same closed, locked cell with this man 24 hours a day.
Yeah. 24 hours a day. I'd get out every couple of days to make a phone call, and that was it. Yeah.
I'm going to ask a ridiculous question. Do you develop any form of a interhuman bond with him over this period of time?
Not really. Well, actually, I shouldn't say not really. We didn't build a friendship, but we built an understanding. This is your side. This is my side. But what helped with that, and you're going to laugh your ass off, he gets out from the cell to go make a phone call. I'm in the cell by myself, and I'm sitting there and I'm doing my shit. He comes back with this big shit-eating grin on his face. And I'm like, uh-oh. He went and talked to his people out on the streets, and he's found out who I am. And he says, hey man, I just wanted to let you know, don't worry about me. And I'm like, don't worry about you? Why should I be worried? You got to put on that, I'm not fucking worried about you, dude, kind of tough guy mentality. He says, yeah, I talked to my mom, and my mom said to make sure that you're well taken care of in here, because, well, you see, my mom was the one who came down and cooked the pig for you guys on Kent Street. My mom cooked the pig roast, and she said, you're a really good guy. And I'm like, no way. And he's like, yeah, dude. He says, you got nothing to worry about. Don't worry. My mom said I have to take care of you, so I'll listen to my mom.
That is fucking wild. You've seen the movie Training Day, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's straight up the scene of the Training Day where the guy
where
there
he pulls out the wall, calls his niece. Yeah.
Holy shit. That. I mean, in as much as you're going through absolute hell, that would be, the touch of God where I say like, okay, fine. Now I can
The
still
relief off my chest and the weight off my shoulders when that happened was like, oh, okay, we're okay now. We're okay.
How many days in was that?
So that would have been, we're going on about, well, after 68 days isolation, 20 to about day 80, I guess, about day 75, 80. And then when
a murderer, but a mama's boy. Holy shit. Holy,
yeah.
That's
So,
they're going to make a movie about this, Pat. The only question is going to be, is it going to be a comedy or a drama? Because right now, I would say a comedy, because in order to really appreciate this, you have to laugh at how insane, abusively insane this is. You're a nonviolent mischief, accused, not even convicted, denied bail, locked up with psychopathic double homicide, legally speaking, convicted murderers.
yeah.
Given a pencil and denied bail in 90 days. It's like congratulations, a month and a half of your life is gone. So enjoy that. And now you got to sit through this and then wait for your next kick at the can.
Yeah. So now here's the better part. So then all of a sudden we're sitting there. I was, and I think it was another 32 days that I was in one wing, in the maximum security wing. I can hear down the hall guards yelling at each other, like literally in a heated argument. And I can hear the one guard, and I'll always remember him. And one day I'm going to thank him for what he did. And I can hear him, and he says to the guards that were holding me, he says to them, "You're going to get this guy killed. Do you want this on your shoulders? What the hell is he doing up here? We've been looking for him for a week, and nobody knows where he was. And I find out he's up here in one wing in maximum security with, and I'm not going to say his name, but with so-and-so. You're going to get him murdered." And all of a sudden I come in, I'm standing there, and you're hearing my ears to the door, and I can hear the boots and the keys. Boom, boom, boom. "King, get your shit ready. You're leaving." I'm like, "What? I'm out? I'm free?" And he goes, "No, we're transferring you. I'm getting you the hell out of here." And he got me to pack my bags. Within 4 hours, I packed all my stuff up, and I walked out of one wing and got brought down to general population and got into a dorm setting with like bunk beds, and you can watch TV all day, and you're free to walk around, and yeah, you get some interaction with some of the people after over 90 days of not talking to anybody, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you finally get bail. I remember that. You look like what someone might expect someone to look like after what is nothing more than torture.
I look sick, man. I look bad, so bad. Like my beard was like gross. My hair was gross. I was gray. I was grayer than my wall. Like I looked sickly. I did develop an infection. I have a prosthetic leg, and I did end up developing an infection that they wouldn't treat appropriately. So I ended up in the infirmary, very sick because of the infection in my leg that was pussing. And they were just giving me antibiotics via pill form instead of giving me actual, like a salve or anything with proper gauze and all of that. They're just like, "Here's some pills." I ended up coming out of it not too bad. I was okay. I didn't get very sick, but it was pretty rough.
I totally forgot about that, and many people will not know. You have a prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
Below the knee.
Below the knee, yeah.
And it's not just that you're not in a medical facility where, Brian Colfage is an amputee. He's serving time for the We Build the Wall scandal or so-called scandal. They put him in a medical facility, a veteran, gold star, triple amputee. They stuck you in the shittiest of conditions on earth with your prosthetic leg.
Yeah. And no shower capabilities. I need a chair to sit on when I have a shower, and they didn't have that either. No shower, no clean facilities. But then it's the prisoners, once I got down to the general population, started to advocate for me, and they started to say, "Hey man, like, what are you guys doing to this guy? Like, he needs this, this, and this, and this." And then I finally started getting like a chair to sit on in the shower, and I started getting a little bit better treatment once the guards were understanding what they did. Like I want to sue OCDC right now, but right now I'm getting this out of the way, and then we're coming back and firing a ton of lawsuits against all these people.
I'm running we're going to leave the banner for your lawyer underneath for the rest of this show. It'll be blocked when I bring up some chats.
Yeah.
Pat for prime minister. Well, we'll get there. I got my questions. Okay, so you get out. They give you these ridiculous bail conditions.
Yeah, the worst conditions in Canadian history. Nobody has ever had conditions like me. I'm the first person.
I mean, and if you were accused of having rammed a van into a group of protesters, I might understand it. Can't let that person go to a bar and get liquored up and whatever. Nonviolent mischief, counseling mischief, and then allegedly lying during your bail hearing. That's the worst of it. Anybody who thinks it's any worse than that, you're an idiot and go read the charges. So you go to trial, by the way. Your trial was, if I'm not mistaken, because I do get mixed up between yours and Tamara Leach's, your trial was ridiculously long.
Yeah, mine was, when did we start? We started May last year for my trial. And my trial commenced in May. There was pre-sentence or pre-trial stuff before that in October. Then we went to May. We started trial in May. I believe it was May and July and November, and then November and February. So we were breaking the trial up in chunks as we kept going, and it just dragged on. So as of 3 years and 1 day, my trial was over.
3 years and 1 day. How many days long? Do you remember how many it was?
I did say it in the 1 day. It was like 1,000, I believe 1,080 some days.
Let me see if Grok is going to be able to get an answer real quick to this.
Yeah. So, and I was actually, when I got the conditions for the house arrest, was exactly 3 years and 1 day since the initial arrest. So I was arrested on February 18th, and on February 19th, I was sentenced 3 years later.
Yeah. Okay. So it's saying the actual trial dates, the actual proceedings might have been 25 days across months.
Yeah, it was a total of 6 weeks trial.
Yeah, that's the trial. Yeah, and all that say, by the way, a 25-day trial, you have that in highly complex white collar criminal proceedings, in highly complex civil. This is the case of the state trying to destroy you through the process, because they are prosecuting off taxpayer dollars and you're defending off crowdfunded dollars, and they know it damn well. Tell us, for those who didn't experience this with you, you had Right Blend, who was at the trial. I don't know if he was there the whole time.
Every day. Jonathan never missed a day. Hats off to you, Jonathan. Great job.
Did you have Krajcek there also? Robert Krajcek? I know. I remember seeing some periodic updates, but Right Blend, I'll give everybody the link in a second, was there every day.
Yeah.
Tell us what that trial was like when you have a Crown trying to lock you up for, well, how long did they try to lock you up for?
They wanted 10 years.
Okay. So they're trying to lock you up for 10 years for criminal mischief, counseling mischief, counseling people to defy police orders. What was that trial like? I mean, we can't get into all of it, but give us the.
I can get it. I can get into all of it, bro.
We got
I'll
time.
tell you right now, it was an absolute circus on the Crown's end. The Crown, his case was absolutely flustered, faltered. Evidence was insane. He drove the judge nuts. The judge at one point said, Mr. Karimji, I do not see anything with your evidence that proves that Mr. King did anything according to the charges that you have. I hope you're getting to a point here. And he says, yes, Your Honor, I'm getting to a point. I will. And he says, I hope so, because this seems like a dragged on long process for nothing.
But Karimji is the same one who was prosecuting Tamara Leach and Chris Barber.
Yeah, and then ended up being recused due to leaking text messages out to the media. So this guy is right in bed with David Fraser. He's right in bed with him, and he works with the media closely to do things. And I can speak on this. I can speak on all of this because my trial is over. I have conditions to keep the peace and be of good behavior. I am keeping the peace and being of good behavior right now. But the key thing to this is the Crown's prosecution may not, Karimji even looked at me at one break in the courtroom. He said, Mr. King, you're a really good man. You have a big heart. You are a teddy bear. And then turns around and tries to call me every name in the book in front of the judge and just tries to smear it. His evidence was flustered all over the place. And a lot of the evidence that he portrayed me in a good light. And I'll elaborate more of that in a little bit. There was one point, Viva, he played our intro song to my podcast, which is Just Drive. which has the videos of us all going down the highway and everything. And he made that video play throughout the whole trial, like throughout that whole segment, the whole thing, to get to one part, because you can't edit videos. You have to show them in their entirety. So everybody in the courtroom's like, just drive, they're singing along with it. And then it comes down to the end, and there's the part where I'm hanging my head out the window of the motorhome saying, yeah, let's go. And he goes, stop, pause, right there. So they pause. He goes, see, Your Honor, see, that's him. That's Mr. King. And he's violating the laws of the road. And everybody, and the judge is just like, are you serious, man? So that goes on. There's another part where there was an interview between myself and Arthur Pulaski, who I called in jail. They wanted me to give him a call. I had no idea I was being recorded, but he's saying a prayer over me. He's just trying to give me, what's it like for you, Pat? Just giving me questions and saying a good wholesome prayer. And I remember my bro Calvier. He's sitting beside me, and if you see the picture, he's the gentleman wearing the turban. He's the sick gentleman. And Calvier just looks behind. He goes, bro, when he was saying that prayer, the whole courtroom found God, bro. People were crying, and it was such a positive influence for you. Like, is this guy handing you the trial? Like, is he giving it to you? I said, no, just wait. It'll get better. But there was many instances of that. Evidence that was brought up never showed me in a bad light. And in fact, I want to read what the judge actually said at the final verdict, where he gave me the 3 months house arrest. And he says, essentially, no violence or property damage occurred over the 3 weeks of the protest. And indeed, King counseled against violence in very direct and blunt terms in his online broadcasts. The massive demonstration involving large commercial trucks and a diverse group of people, some with extreme political views, carried with it a significant risk of violence and property damage, neither of which occurred. King advocated forcefully against such conduct and can actually be credited as a positive influencer and in significant respects. And that's in the writing. So
I don't think people realize what you have to keep the peace. I will keep the peace as well, but I can be a little bit looser with my tongue.
Absolutely.
Moise Karimji is a world-class piece of shit. He is a malicious prosecutor. He belongs behind bars. He deserves to be prosecuted for malicious prosecution. He deserves to be sued into oblivion. He was looking to lock Tamara Leach up because she took the picture with Tom Marazzo at an event that they were authorized to go to. He is Hitler's willing executioner. In no uncertain terms. World-class, evil, awful person who identifies good when he sees it, but pursues injustice because he thinks that was his job as a crown prosecutor, thinking that a prosecutor is there to secure convictions and not pursue justice. So Moise Karimji, worst person up there in Canada. I hadn't heard that he was leaking to the press.
Yeah, and he had done it several times throughout my case, and I've actually filed complaints against him in the Ontario Law Society for what he's been doing. And 2 of my complaints went moot. They didn't get it. Third complaint got accepted, gave me a reference number, everything, said we'll be in touch with you to do an interview to find out what your complaint is. Next thing I know, I get an email saying, oh, sorry, we're throwing it out. So the manipulation with the judicial system from that end of things, when you're putting in a complaint to the Ontario Law Society, it's proven. And malicious prosecution, you're absolutely correct. I have emails from him where he's threatening to breach me if I attempt to apply for a bail variation. So he's going to breach me if I go for a bail variation to try and get my voice back. I send the emails into the Ontario Law Society. They acknowledge that is looking pretty bad. And then all of a sudden it gets thrown out. So that not only that, he also got a promotion to deputy crown prosecutor after my trial.
It doesn't make sense because he did, if I do recall correctly, he got, if not reprimanded, he got chewed out a little bit in the Tamara Leach case where they're like, he wasn't not being well received, but I do forget the details about that.
He tried to get the judge kicked off the case. He was trying to get the judge thrown out.
I know that I had an audio clip that he was losing his mind in front of the judge during Tamara Leach. He's an unhinged psychopath, and he does belong behind bars. Period. Full
Not
stop.
only that, he looked at the judge and when he was saying, you know, Your Honor, he needs 10 years, he needs full extent of the law, and I could actually give him 20 years if I want, but I'm being nice. And the judge looks at him and he goes, so are you looking to make this man a political prisoner? And he said, absolutely, that's what we want to do. And everybody in the courtroom went, they gasped that he even said that. He says, and this case needs to be set and made precedents. And the judge looked at him and he said, you know, this man is protected under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? You know that, yeah, although he may have done something criminal, he cannot be held and tried at the full extent of the law.
You're lucky you ended up with a quasi-reasonable judge. It's although by the time you stood tall, the political tide had changed a little bit, where it wasn't this frenzy where people were ready to lock you up for another, you know, however many years because of this. So it's not like the political climate was a little bit different than when the Jan 6ers were tried and convicted and sentenced to eat, you know, grotesque injustices in DC.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. So you go through this whole trial. Karimji is there day in and day out. Like, this is his baby.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's there. Him and his assistant Emma Louange-Giroux, both in there. There was so many pieces to their case that it was comical. Like, we were having to be told to be quiet because they were laughing. Even the judge, you caught the judge laughing a couple times. The judge would look at me and roll his eyes, like he'd catch me right there, and oh boy. And, you know, the judge was a great man. I have a lot of respect for Hacklin for having to sit through all of that. But in the closing arguments, when Mr. Karimji was giving his quote,
I don't want to trigger any memory. Is this him? It's like, I don't want to bring this can cause a flat. Okay. And he's a professor. Let me see. What's interesting is it's not very easy to find pictures of him. And I think that there's a deliberate,
not only that, we also did some background checks on him too, and he's donated to the Liberal Party for over a decade. He's been doing a lot of things with the Liberal Party, promoting them, attending dinners and stuff with them and everything. It's
wow.
He's not a nice man. And in a lot of aspects, I feel bad for him, because it's like, man, you came into this probably with all the best intentions, but you didn't understand the detriment you're putting into Canadian society with what you're doing to what we did.
He's just following orders. But I think he's gleefully following the orders.
He was gleefully. His nose is so far up the ass of these guys on Bay Street. It's not even funny.
So you have your trial. It's a bench trial. It's not a jury trial.
No, it was a bench trial. It was judge alone.
Okay, I guess you may have gotten lucky there. This is in Ottawa itself as well.
In Ottawa, yeah, on Elgin Street, 161.
Everybody, bench trial is only the judge. Jury trial is a jury of your peers, which would have been Ottawa residents.
Exactly. Now, we were originally going for that. We were going to do but we got wind that they were stacking the jury.
Of course, it's like having a jury trial of your peers in DC when it's only a question of how much they want to kill you, not whether. That's
great. Yeah.
But you're still taking your chances with a federal judge. But he is a federal judge. We were in Superior Court, and Justice Hacklin he's about to retire, so this is one of the ones he was going out on. And the reason, like honestly, the judge caught it right away. He knew. Right away. He fell asleep. He fell asleep at one point in all the videos that we were watching. You can see him sitting there. And then he looked at Kurt. You're not going to make me listen to another friggin' video, are you? Can you? For those who haven't practiced, or haven't been in this circuit, you don't appreciate what's going on. This guy's building his case, and he thinks he's cracking the code for cancer. Like, it's like he thinks he's solving world hunger the way he's crafting this 5-week trial, or it's 25 days, but it's 5 days a week, or 4 days a week, it's 6 weeks. And like, the best he can do is bring up these idiotic clips that in his mind prove that you deserve to be locked up for 10 years, but in the mind of any half reasonable person makes a mockery of the system. Yeah. Yeah. And it was kind of embarrassing to see it too, because I know the Crown's job is to protect justice and preserve justice. And knowing that these charges and everything that we did was malicious against us,
that he's even falling, like why he didn't throw it out. I don't understand why he didn't throw the charges out. He had the ability to. And I think at one time, Justice Hacklin even asked him, like, you think we should stay the charges here, Mr. Crimsey? Oh, no. And yeah, so when they came at him with the 10 years and his closing arguments of 10 years, the judge was having none of it. The judge was like, at one point, the judge looked right at Mr. Crimsey. He says, look it, man, I've had enough. I've heard enough from you. Finish what you're saying and be done with it. I don't want to hear any more from you anymore. That's how bad it got. He got under the judge's skin so bad that judge was not having it. And I know there's people in the chat that were in the courtroom for that, and they can attest to it as well. That it was an absolute clown show.
Sorry, the one I want to Viva, ask Viva to copy the pinned comment. I'll put it up on the description right now. Hold on. This is the banner where people can support you because you still got legal fees. Holy shit. Okay, so you're down for a 6-week trial that takes whatever 5-6 months over a period of time, because people also understand if they have to recess, they have to find that judge's next availabilities, and he might have a 2-month trial scheduled, so he can only get back to the trial after he does whatever he's got in the meantime. So this can take forever. Karimji doesn't give a sweet bugger all. He gets paid very, very, very well, I believe.
Oh, very well. I've seen his wage. I think it's something like $240,000 a year.
I'm gonna double check. Crown prosecutor Canada salary. I think it's, I would say it has to be less than a judge, which is about 270. So maybe
he's been as well seasoned, but he's also just got a raise. But this is another thing that a lot of people don't remember either. My bank accounts were frozen on February 7th of 2022. They're still frozen today. I've been trying to go after Paul Champ.
Which bank?
My bank account, my Alberta Treasury Branch bank account.
Okay, that's the name of the bank, Alberta Treasury Branch?
Yeah, Alberta Treasury Branch, yeah. And it's still frozen to this day. And we've been trying to create dialogue and communication between Paul Champ. Oh, I'm getting on it. And he doesn't get on it. I'm sorry. So for those who don't know, Paul Champ is the lawyer representing Lexi Lee in the civil case. He testified in here. Paul Champ, also world-class piece of shit. Sorry, Paul, you deserve it. So it's frozen by judicial order at this point, not by the fiat executive order, whatever we want to call it. That Freeland. It's under the injunction that was put into place, and then they filed a lawsuit against us. It was $400 million. It's come down drastically to $280 million.
Holy hell! So people appreciate this because this is not as simple as the bank listening to the emergency order. Right now, they don't want you. Can I ask the totally indiscreet question? Do you have tens of thousands of dollars in your bank account?
I did. I had $84,000 plus my kids' college tuitions, plus all of my savings, my investments. And I have a high profile and low profile stock portfolio. They're all frozen.
Frozen. And there's no interest on the cash. You can't spend it. They don't want you emptying your bank account so you become judgment proof to Lexi Lee's wonderfully ill-founded and totally abusive class action lawsuit. Okay, so
even in the lawsuit, I've agreed for them to take a certain amount, a large portion dollar amount, to put in escrow so that in the event that we do lose, then they have the money and funds there. And I've agreed to it, and he's still not releasing my bank account.
And but I did not mean to pry in terms of the amount, but the argument I presume on their end is that the money you have in that bank account you raised through your unlawful convoy.
Not all of it. Some of it was my own. But there's an amount that he agreed that between the time that we were in Ottawa, that the donations came in, and we went through all of my bank account, what was donations and what was not. And it's not as large as he said at the POEC. He says $100,000. No, it's not even close to $100,000. And he knows that. He was doing a big fiasco in front of the Public Order Emergencies Commission to make it look like I had gained all this funds. I didn't. And I agreed. Keep the money that was donated. I don't care. It was donated. Go ahead. If you want to put it in escrow, give me the rest of my money back and give me the rest of my investments back. And the main part, give me my kids' college tuitions that I've been investing in for so long. Give them back, because my son actually had to miss out on going to university while I was in jail because I couldn't pay his college tuition. Then he missed out last year because he couldn't go to school because I didn't have his tuitions. And now this year, he's finally bit the bullet and said, Dad, I can't wait any longer. He's going back to school in September now to get his master's degree in mathematics, and he's gone and bit the bullet and took a loan so he can get his college and university going. And that was never our goal as parents. Is I wanted to make sure my kid wasn't going to come out of university with a mountain of debt. I wanted to make sure that they were protected, and they didn't have that. They had the absolute best chances of success when they were done. Now, Mr. Champ keeps dragging his feet, and I can show you the email after email after email that has been had with Mr. Champ constantly, consistently. And yep. And then months have gone by, months and months have gone by, and he's not doing it.
Well,
now,
I can tell you what.
I had my conditions lifted last Friday for me to be able to speak. I had my conditions lifted. I had the Crown attorney within hours. They had it signed off and in front of a judge within hours. Now, don't tell me this takes 7-8 months, Mr. Paul Champ. This takes hours, bro. And I'm getting a little sick and tired of this, to the point that there's got to be a violation or some kind of reprimand for what he's doing. There's got to be something, because this is absolute malicious now.
Yeah, look, the only steel man would be that they're going to say, look, above and beyond the monies that you procured through your mischievous conduct, they want to make sure that you have assets to satisfy any judgment that they think they're going to get against you. So prevent you from spending your money so that they have something to execute against. I know what they would argue. And for people, it's not Paul Champ doing it unilaterally. He found a court to issue this order and not rescind, revoke, or modify it. It's absolute judicial abuse. And if you look at it from the court's perspective, who are they going to lend more credence to? And I'm not saying this because I believe it. It's just the way the system works. Look at Paul Champ, a nice upstanding lawyer, and then they look at the defendants, alleged convicted mischievous criminals, and they don't know what they're going to do with their money. So we got to make sure that we got to freeze their assets so that they have to satisfy whatever order Lexi Lee is going to get, and it's going to be a big fat goose egg at the end of the day. And that was part of my conditions, is that I was only allowed on social media for fundraising purposes only, in order to raise money, because my lawyer, they wouldn't release my funds from my bank account so that I could pay for my lawyer. That's where I'd say, again, people need to go to jail. That is. It's legislated attempt to break and bankrupt and prevent people from even being able to defend themselves, so they're easier to lock up. Exactly. So the Crown acknowledges that my bank accounts are frozen, and then acknowledges that I'm allowed on social media, but I'm only allowed to go on to beg for money. And now I'm $38,000, just shy of $38,000 in arrears still, that I'm trying to raise money because my bank accounts are still currently frozen. Hence the reason why the ticker's down there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you care to donate to Natasha, it'd be greatly appreciated. Natasha was a pit bull in the trial, to the point, Viva, she had her pen in her hand. And when the Crown said, I want 10 years, Natasha stands up and she says, in Russia, there was a man who spoke out against Putin. When he spoke out, they gave him 20 years in jail because he spoke out against the government. Mr. King did the same thing. He spoke out against the government. Are we Russia? Not only in Russia, they jailed his counsel 3 years. Both lawyers got 3 years in prison for defending him. And she threw her pen down. This isn't Russia. And everybody was like, woo! In the courtroom. It was epic, bro. Problem is, it might be pretty close to Russia. It might not be Russia, but it's Russia adjacent. And that's the real problem of Canada now. Oh, she put on an absolute great case, performance, everything. And it shows where you got a Crown asking for 10 years and you got 3 months house arrest. So you find out, how long did it take the judge to issue the ruling after the trial was over? Was it days or was it? We had to take another break. After the verdict, or after because you had sentencing, you had arguments on sentencing. A little bit, a couple discrepancies on sentencing. So we had 2 days of submissions on sentencing, and then he took a break for, I believe it was like 3 weeks. We were supposed to be back February 7th, but we ended up putting it off to the 19th. Wow. And then he comes down. In that time, you're out on whatever conditions you're out on. Comes down, 3 months house arrest. I got to get into it because house arrest, although better than what you've lived through, is pretty fucking torturous. It's boring. It's boring. Like I would rather be productive. I can't even take my dog for a walk, bro. Like I can't go out. I can't go. If I go to the edge of my driveway, I could go to jail. Right? So even putting my garbage out the other day, it's like
one foot's on the property line and I'm putting my garbage on the thing. Now that was a bit extreme. I can put my garbage out, but that's what it's like. And you get that mentality put in your head. I have to travel with papers. So whenever I got to go to appointments, I get free every Monday between the hours of 2 and 5 to go do my grocery shopping.
Are you allowed walking to the grocery store, or do you have to go the nearest possible beeline to the nearest possible grocery store?
I have in between the span of 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I can go anywhere I want.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what
my probation officer who's maintaining this, she said to me, she's like, man, you're so high profile. You know, I don't want the freaking drama that's coming with this stuff. So I'm going to tell you, keep your nose clean, stay out of all of this stuff. I appreciate what you've done. You know, I appreciate the conditions you're under. You got off really good. This is really good. It's easy peasy. Just get it done, get it over with, and move on with the rest of your life. She said, but I said, well, can I at least go walk my dog? She says, not yet. Let's let it cool down a little bit before we allow you to go walk your dog. Because right now there are people chomping in the bit, and they're probably in here in your live and in my live watching.
Trying to catch you saying something, take it out of context, and then say, look what he said, bite the bullet. Yeah, look at that, bite the bullet. I was going to make a joke at the time, metaphorically speaking, people.
Exactly.
Pat, I need to know. I won't be satisfied until I know. What kind of dog do you have?
I have a purebred American XL bully.
I'm going to love your dog.
He's a beast.
Did I see you didn't have your dog at the protest, did you?
No. Okay. No, that was Carrie's dog. The one was in the trailer. In the motorhome, that was her dog.
Yeah, because I remember I saw some absolute beautiful American bulldogs, pit bulls. What is he?
Here, I'll bring him up. You can have a little view. Come here,
and is he intact, Pat?
Oh yeah. He's breeding. He's going to be breeding here really soon. Here he is.
Okay, dude, we might need one. Let's see. Okay, is it not the most beautiful dog on the face of the planet?
Yeah, Titan, come say hi to everybody.
Oh my good. Is he totally reliable with kids, with other people?
Oh, buddy, he's the best dog. He's a big sucky baby. He's a big sucky baby, 100%.
Dude, I might put in dibs on one of the dogs. One of ours has to kick the bucket before I can think about getting a new one. Oh, is he majestic, beautiful, and glorious?
Yeah, he's a beautiful dog. Hey, steal the show again?
So you're stuck there for 3 months. You can go do your groceries, but you know that you've got haters online who are trying to catch you tripping and falling over the fence line so they can lock you up yet again.
Oh, absolutely.
He hasn't lost sight of you.
No.
Is he still on the file, or did he?
He's still on the file. I still have the 2 other charges. So another thing ended up happening. We got coaxed into a live chat on X, and it was for fundraising purposes, but it was somehow deemed a breach. So he brought me back in August, tried to get me breached right after the trial was over, like a day after the trial was over. He was mad because he knows he lost the trial. And then he decided to breach me. So I got to deal with the breach allegations still. And then I still got to deal with the perjury allegations that for some reason there's no dates for. They're just going to keep dragging and dragging and dragging and dragging on.
It's absolute tyranny.
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Yeah. The girl who had the dog when we were in the motorhome, she's in the chat right here. Her name's Carrie. That dog passed away actually not too long ago. So Clyde will forever be enshrined in our photos, and always in our hearts. But Clyde was there.
So right now, Pat, you're under house arrest. You got 74 days left. Do you have a calendar? You're knocking off the days?
Oh, absolutely. I'm live every day on my TikTok, and we're having fun on TikTok, and we do everybody else doing house arrest with me. So I got people I can talk to. Because I had visitors last night, but it's just usually me and my son, and I just go and spend my house arrest with people online.
That is it's wild. I'm trying to think if I'm going to get to questions. I think I've got to everything. I guess my main, a few questions. We got some time left. Is what's your hope, or what's your view on where Canada is heading? Because I won't load it. What's your view on where Canada is heading?
Well, I know a little bit of information that a lot of the general public doesn't know, and I really do think that what you're getting with Donald Trump right now with his trolling of the Canadian citizens is, ladies and gentlemen, Canada has been sold out a long time ago. Donald Trump is just trying to acquire the assets now, and he knows we have a weak management team here in Canada, and he's calling them out. And we obviously know we have one of the worst management teams in Canadian history running the show out there. He's basically making us call them out by putting these massive tariffs on the country, on the basis of, if we're not going to stand up and get this government corrected and fired like we have the ability to do, what he's going to do is he's going to make it so bloody hard on us that we have no choice. And what people don't understand is it isn't Donald Trump that's coming against us. It isn't, it isn't us, myself on the right, whoever on the left. It isn't us that are doing this to anybody. It isn't the Americans. I had several Americans on my show yesterday, and we were talking about this, and the Americans don't want to invade us. They don't want anything to do with it. They'd be crazy for them to come up here and live in -50 for 6 months out of the year. They say this. But what you've got is you got a bunch of suit dummies that are thinking that they can flex on our most favorable economical brother in to the south of us, and thinking that they're going to be tough guys, thinking that they're going to change it and push the boot down on Donald Trump's throat. I'm sorry, they don't need us. They have the population down there. But what you're getting now is Donald Trump showing us as Canadians how absolutely weak and disgusting our parliamentarians are, how our management team is. Not only that, they all went for a little trip down to Mar-a-Lago before all of this. Remember? They all went down there and they all come back. What a great visit, great meeting. We're all going to get along. And then you doubled down. And now you got Doug Ford trying to say, oh, no bourbon whiskey up here.
No, they're going to shut off electricity to the states or whatever.
And that is an act of war. That's an act of war. But nobody understands that our suit dummies in Ottawa and in our premiers are playing a game of chess on your backs and not giving a shit because you're just a pawn.
So Pavlovsky just tweeted this out, which is a repost of a Truth Social from Trump, where it says, Justin Trudeau of Canada called me to ask what can be done about tariffs. I told him many people have died from fentanyl that came through the borders of Canada and Mexico, and nothing has convinced me that it has stopped. He said it's gotten better. I said that's not good enough. The call ended in a, quote, somewhat friendly manner. He was unable to tell me when the Canadian election is taking place, which made me curious, like, what's going on here? I then realized he is trying to use this issue to stay in power. Good luck, Justin. It's sorry, I'm gonna back this out here. It's we earlier on, in fact, like coming right back to the beginning where you said, you were exposing the Chinese infiltration in the Canadian government. It's something that's come to the fore now recently, but it's something that's pretty much as old as Justin Trudeau's premiership or prime ministership. Sorry. Flesh that out. I'm trying to get one day I'll get Sam Cooper on and we'll really get into the weeds of it, but flesh it out for those who don't know what level of Chinese infiltration, Indian Khalistani infiltration we have in the Canadian government.
No, it's gotten absolutely horrendous to the point that they are calling the shots. They've got the politicians in their pockets. There's a minimum of, I believe, 22, and I think there's almost 28 that have been directly affected by the influence of the Chinese Communist Party. The government grants that have been handed over to the Chinese, the acquiring of assets in our northern territories that have been allowed, one with actual military capability with underground bunkers for storage because of the frost and how cold it is up in the Arctic that they've acquired, that has its own single private landing strip that they can come in and out, and nobody's watching and monitoring the north. So there's the race for the Northwest Passage is what it's all about. Mm-hmm. They want that northern corridor for accessibility to our resources. There's the uranium one that is being purchased through Iran, and they're selling actual yellow cake uranium out of a uranium mine up northern Saskatchewan that the Chinese have been purchased and hidden it under a shell corporation. You have, and the law enforcement agencies where the Chinese police were harassing Hong Kong citizens that were in Canada. There was that one. And CSIS has given this report out. Justin Trudeau knows exactly who it is. And trust me, guys, I'm not one side on this. It's both sides. It's conservatives, NDP, and the liberals that are involved with this. They've all been influenced. You've got CSIS and another officer that's been in committee who's already reported on this, but is failing to give any of the actual names. The names are the tough ones to find, but the writings aren't, so then you can make the names out of it. from what ridings they were in.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the Kalistani stuff, I've had the opportunity of getting to know several Kalistani people that are involved in this, and I'm learning that it's a CIA op that is making it look like it's the Kalistanis, but it's really India. So when we say Kalistanis were actually chased out of India. They are here in large numbers in Canada, but what they are doing here in Canada is they are trying to get a referendum to have them be recognized again through the United Nations in their country of India so that they can go home. And the Kalistani movement, from the groups and the leaders of the Kalistani movement that I've been in contact with, and one is my very, very close friend, donated $25,000 to my bail to get me released on bail conditions. And they are explaining in pretty much straight up that it's a CIA campaign through India. And India now has murdered a Kalistani leader, or not Kalistani leader, but a member in BC. And it's the Indian government that is doing this by influence of the Liberal Party. So Donald Trump, under the United States MCA Act, under Section 27, has the ability that if there's any kind of collusion, bribery, or any kind of misdealings going on in Canada, or infiltration, foreign infiltration, under the USMCA Act, has the ability to come up and investigate a partnering country. Now, I believe he knows all of this because of the Five Eyes. We are about to be kicked out of the Five Eyes now because of it, because of the influence, because of the infiltration, because they know what's going on and they know what's happening here in Canada. And I believe that Donald Trump is calling it out without calling it out. He's basically dropping little Easter eggs for people to catch on to, and trying to, they can call it bullying our prime ministers and bullying our politicians. But really what it is he's letting them know that, hey guys, you guys need to get fired. You need to quit and rechange your government structure right now, or else there's going to be even more things coming down on you. And if you don't want to look like how bad Canada is, because if they really expose how bad the infiltration is here in Canada, we'll have other countries coming at us, not just the United States. We'll have actual World War III on North American soil. And I believe that was always the plan, is they've always been wanting our resource mecca that is Canada. We are a national park on the world stage. If anybody's ever had the ability to travel around the world, Canada is ripe for the pickings, and they're coming. And Donald Trump doesn't want that on his back door. All he's asking is protect the border. You didn't protect the border. You didn't do it. And now he's putting the boot on you. You say, well, you didn't listen to me. So now here you go. This is what you're going to get. So then we get Mr. Fancy Socks going to double down on him, yet knowing his scandal with the West Point Academy in Vancouver. We got the scandal of the SNC Lavalin scandal. We've got the We Charity scandal. We've got so many scandals under this prime minister that he's like, your weak leadership needs to go, and I'm to help you.
And not for nothing, the Aga Khan scandal, which brings right back into similar players here. Pat, I'll get to a bunch of all the tip questions and the questions that I may have missed.
Yeah.
You're doing your podcast daily. Is it only on TikTok? Is it on Rumble? Are you on other platforms?
No. So right now I'm doing the TikTok right now on the daily lives and engaging our brethren down south and engaging conversation. And the rooms are getting fuller and fuller every day. I was going to go back onto the Facebook and start doing my Facebook platform because there is 500,000 followers on the Facebook. But you see, I got a great opportunity coming. And I don't want to let it out to too many people. What did that say?
Then why the hell would you move to Montreal?
Well, that's exactly it. And I love the Pink Floyd hammers. That's a great thing in there. I like that. That's from Pink Floyd The Wall. I'm moving to Montreal because I've been given an opportunity with a reputable media company that is going to hand me over a studio with directors, editors, and videographers. And I'm getting a Joe Rogan style setup in a panel, and we're working right now on layouts and themes and interviews and who we're doing, as well as I fell in love with a girl in Montreal, and I love her to death, and she's still got 2 young kids. Mine are grown and older, and my mom lives out east, and it puts me 8 hours closer to my mom, whereas here I'm 3-day drive from my mom, and my mom's getting up there in age. So there's a business opportunity on top of the fact that I fell in love with a girl in Montreal, and I'm going to probably end up marrying this woman if she will have me at some point. And I plan on I plan on raising the caliber of my hard work and effort that we've done to start exposing this and being a positive advocate against our government politicians rather than a negative one. Now it's time to raise the bar. And with this company that's given me the opportunity, it's got great monetary possibilities, and it's what I want to do. It's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to get in a interview setting, as well as we're applying for a parliamentary press pass through the company. And I'm not going to tell the company out just yet. We're going to wait till this goes through. And once we get the parliamentary press pass, well, then the world is my oyster at that point.
Shit is going to hit the fan for the government. In a metaphorical, proverbial sense, you're going to get someone who's not going to ask CBC type questions.
Well, and exactly what somebody's saying there, Rebel is controlled up. And that's the other one. We're going to supersede Rebel. We're gonna actually get to this for the people, by the people, we the people.
I know that there's, look, and full disclosure, I like Jeremy McKenzie. I like Rebel. There's some infighting that I want to have nothing to do with, and nobody's perfect and everyone makes mistakes. With that said, I want to bring this one up because I'm not ignoring this. Viva, are you aware this is happening? This was back when you were talking about solitary in jail. Tommy Robinson in Woodhill, his psychotherapist says he's close to breaking. I know what's going on with Tommy. He's locked up there for 18 months for violating a non-publication contempt. Basically, they're trying to get Tommy to break. But I have close connections there, so I'll see what's going on. Viva, I want to bring this one up only because I don't care if it's a troll. I do want to highlight that for the AdSense revenue that I do get and the sponsors for these videos, my purpose in this is to actually above and beyond raising money for a lot of the people that do this and donating to their specific campaigns, much more than I make by way of AdSense revenue. I think the world needs to know this. So maybe I shouldn't have given this troll any attention, but I did flag that. RC Lamoureux says, thank you, Mr. King. You literally saved millions of lives. I'll never forget your sacrifice. Thank you, sir. And then we got RC Lamoureux says, Canadian hero, thank you, Mr. King, is an unassuming, outspoken, regular guy who stood up to the Clinton mafia, terrorist government of Canada and the provinces. A real Canadian hero, never forget. And is this another RC Lamoureux? No, this is Craig Andrews. Says Pat King should go on Joe Rogan. Viva is awesome, but it is only one side of the spectrum of hearing the truth. Everyone is deserving of listening to the corruption that Pat King was forced to survive. Absolutely. It would be amazing. The only part, there's too many people that need to go on Rogan. You want the biggest bullhorn to put this on blast. Tamara Leach needs to go on Rogan. So, Warren Smith was just on Rogan. Yeah, it's amazing. But now, hold on, let me bring this back up here because there was over on Rumble. Where's Biltong? I know I saw Biltong in here. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, we got Biltong. If you are looking for a healthy snack, if you haven't had Biltong, I don't think they can ship it to Canada. Plus, there's going to be some wicked tariffs on it. If you're looking for snacks to add to your diet, try our Biltong 50% protein packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, much more. BiltongUSA.com, code VIVA for 10% off. In our locals community, let me see what questions we have here. We have a few questions. A smoke, I thought Canadians called them darts, bud. That is from I Hate Death. Encrypta says, Canada going after America is like showing up to a gunfight where one guy has a machine gun and the other guy is holding a banana. My analogy more is it's like doing the power slap, except it's like Urkel from Family Matters doing a power slap with Butterbean, and Butterbean goes first. I mean, it's so Butterbean was the biggest, big boxer from back in the day.
Oh yeah.
People in chats are asking for his socials, links to TikTok and other platforms. Pat, can you in the private chat give me all of your links to TikTok?
Yeah, absolutely. So at TikTok, it's at the real Pat King official, and it's the one with, I believe, 11,000 followers at the present. I put it in the chat. That chat. I should have put it in our chat. But
put it in our channel, sure. And I'm gonna prioritize now. I'm not gonna go exclusive to locals now, but I'm gonna go only in the locals for questions that I may have missed. Any questions that anybody wants to ask Tommy that I didn't. Tommy, sorry, somebody said Tommy is a hero. Any questions that I have not asked?
I also got X, so if you guys want to follow me at X, it's _real Pat King on X. You'll find me there. It's like 3,000. I've had all my social medias wiped, basically, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just starting to rebuild the platforms back up. So then, and I seen somebody else said, well, if Viva's making all this money off me, maybe Viva should donate all the money that he made off this show. Guys, this isn't about money. And that's something I want to get first and foremost. It never was about money. And those that are putting the dollar signs on stuff and saying that kind of stuff, please, just say those comments for.
I know what I've donated in the past. It well exceeds anything that I can possibly make from AdSense revenue or
100%. Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. But
Viva has donated, guys. I just let you know.
Now I'm asking for. Oh, sorry. What's your Twitter handle? I'm trying to find it.
The Twitter handle is at the underscore Pat King. At the real Pat King.
Real Pat King.
Yeah,
the underscore real Pat.
I'll just get it for you. It's
here you go. Oh, and you got it. Beautiful. I got it. And you
it's got a really nice picture of me there.
Okay, let me make sure
so that's me on there, and then obviously the Facebook. When we do get switched over, after X, there's the Puppa Dog. That was when he was a pup. He's not a pup anymore. He's actually just turned a year old. But when we do get switched over to the podcast, we'll be on Spotify, we'll be on Patreon, and then I'll be linking everything with my podcast on the Facebook and everywhere else. It's going to be a Joe Rogan style, Canadian style, very provocative, very thought-provoking platform. And then we're going to raise the caliber of interviews so that we're starting to get politicians on the platform. Once we have the parliamentary press pass, I will be back and forth to Ottawa in their faces, asking the tough questions and making sure that the general public gets to actually ask their questions. And I'll be interviewing a lot of general public people with their thoughts and their ideas on what they think should be done and maybe correct some of the wrongs. I see a lot of people pushing me for politics. That's a big club, ladies and gentlemen, and I ain't part of it.
You will be exponentially more useful on the outside. The politics is downstream from media. I forget what the expression is, but you will be exponentially more effective on the outside than one of those many rusty wheels in that disgusting machine that is the government.
Yeah.
I was about to say something and I forgot what it was. Oh, Pantelis. Do you know who Pantelis is?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to hook you guys up. When you get to Montreal, you'll do a podcast with him. I always call him the Canadian Joe Rogan because he's an amazing stand-up comic. Got a studio up in, I won't say where, just so that nobody. He's amazing, and it would be a mutually beneficial connection to make. So,
yeah, for sure. If any connections would help.
Here's a question for Pat from Jacob62 over at our locals. So many Canadian truckers buy quite a bit of fuel in the U.S. Could Canadian trucking subsist buying Canadian fuel alone?
Yeah, but we would end up putting a big hindrance on our own fuel supply here because we don't have the refineries. Let us build our refineries and we would have no problems.
Yeah, well, that won't happen under a Trudeau regime, nor will it happen under a Mark Carney regime, and it's arguable whether or not it would even happen under a Pierre Poilievre government. So,
yeah.
Viva, when can we expect another video of Monument Minute with Viva and the kid? Not until our next field trip, but I'll see. I was just up in DC and I was exploring the monuments with my kid, and then I went to visit Tim Pool. Do Tim Pool. It was we did a Monument Minute. It was kind of cool. We went to Harper's Ferry. It's just America. There's a lot of history in the southern states of America. It's quite beautiful.
I was reached out to by Trace Gallagher from Fox News. They're wanting a big interview on the what does it say here? Hi Pat, it's producer from the Trace's show, Fox News. Night, we're curious if you're available to join us.
Do it
on Trace Gallagher's show. So thanks, Viva.
Yeah. That's it. Booyah. Wait, totally unrelated, but I will take credit for it. Because I really don't think, Americans sort of laugh about the level of communism in Canada. I don't think they fully appreciate the extent, scope, depth, and depravity of it. People are getting mad at me up in Canada for shitting on Canada too hard. It's an open question as to whether or not Canada is beyond the point of no return. And I know a lot of people who, with more information than me, and that consider it to be beyond the point of no return. What do you think is the way back for Canada, if there is one, Pat?
I think a total government regime, electoral reform, number one. We need a two-party system. We need an electoral college, I believe, set up like what the Americans have. One of the biggest advocates right now one of the biggest projects that I'm working on right now, and I'm going to be advocating very strongly, is for a referendum on the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and to have Section 33 of the Charter to be revoked. if they can't revoke Section 33 of the Charter, which is the notwithstanding clause,
Yeah.
I believe that we need to start pushing what's called constitutional conventions across Canada via registered mail to notify all citizens that we will be in town and we will be holding town hall meetings to have a constitution written for the Canadian people that is Canada, and it is for we the people, by the people, and for the people. And it's the only document that's saving the United States from their demise. And it's a powerful document. This Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada was never ratified. Quebec never signed on it, so it's not even worth the ink it's written in. And Brian Peckford was a key component to that writing of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I've had the opportunity of sitting down with Mr. Peckford and going through all of this stuff, along with finding out that a lot of the stuff with Canada itself as a corporation sorry, I'm getting a phone call and I really need to take that call, but I want to finish my thought. Canada is a corporation. And it's a myth that we think that Canada is a sovereign country. The Corporation of Canada, under everything that has happened throughout the BNA Act, has proven to everybody across, proven that Canada isn't really a country. And there's a lot of work. And I know, Viva, you're going to be like, well, man, I don't believe this shit. But we've been working diligently and researching hard on all of this stuff for over a decade. And it's finally out and released. And I'd like to ask everybody out there in the social media world, please go check out the video, Canada, the Illusion. Doug Force's hard work is finally coming to fruition. And it's actually coming out in a very well put together 48-minute long video. And if people can educate themselves on that video, you'll understand that I'm coming out with the Constitutional Convention push to make sure that Canada has their freedom in their hands and not in the hands of these suit dummies that are out there in Ottawa who think that they're working for the people, but really they're not. Hell, they're arguing with Donald Trump, and our own parliament isn't even sitting at the moment.
That's what people forget. Like they're announcing reprisal tariffs. Government is prorogued and will be prorogued for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm sorry, 3 weeks.
Yeah, and not only that, guys, they're still raising the carbon tax on April 1st. The politicians all just got raises just not too long ago. They're continuing to put the boot down on us, but they've got us all looking over here. Oh, Donald Trump bad, Orange Man bad. But yet what they're doing to us here in Canada right now, they're just distracting you. And you're standing here and you're fighting with each other and you're arguing with each other over what Donald Trump is doing to protect his country. What is our country doing to protect us? Nothing. In fact, they're increasing the load of tax on us. The capital gains tax, which was never certified, is still going through at 66% against business owners. And it's not even allowed. But yet the CRA is following through with it anyway, and it's never even been signed off on. People, you really need to understand, the fight isn't between us. The fight is with the suit dummies and these illegitimate politicians who continuously start to put the boot harder and harder and harder. And you all sit there and go, okay, sir, thank you very much. I'm just going to keep swallowing it up. It's time that people start exercising their democratic rights a lot more. Start flexing on this government via emails, via whatever you need to do to get your voice heard and get these politicians to start listening. And that's my rant. That's it right there. I highly recommend you guys look into this 51st state stuff. Guys, we don't need that. But we can have a plausible government that is designed and run similarly to the United States, but it is our own. Not only that, we see the mistakes that is the government of the United States, and we can make it better. And we need to kick the monarchy out of here. I'm tired of being the Queen's piggy bank, or now the King's piggy bank. And now you have the King is getting involved, and he's coming for the only second time in American history that the King is going to have a chat with the President of the United States. Only the second time in history. That's saying a lot.
Pat could not have a better rant on which to end the stream. I'm going to put all your links pinned up there. TikTok, Twitter, donation. Let's do this again. You're fantastic. And nobody will watch this. And if they had a bad impression of you, think that they were justified. Period. Full stop. And I like you.
I like you too, buddy.
All right. So may we be able to meet one day in person.
I gotta give one shout out. You want to hear a story of 6 ways separation? The woman that I absolutely fell madly in love with, you tasted some of her products 7 years ago. She was a chef and she put meals together in a bag and you and your
Oh yeah, dude,
that's my Sophie Perot.
But what absolutely was it? I don't want to say it was sous vide. It was. I'm trying. What was the name of the company?
Even I don't remember the name of the company, but it was her that was her company.
That is so fun. I'm
and
sure
you and your kids are tasting her chicken parmesan.
Yeah, because I'll be able to go find the video. Like this is the wonderful thing about having lived a life on the internet for the better part of a decade. Is I have no memory, but I'll go.
I watched it, and your kids loved it, and she is an amazing cook, bro. She's amazing.
Is she still involved in the same business?
Not so much. Oh, bouillon. It was the bouillon.
I have to
bouillon.
I'm gonna find that, and I'm gonna repost.
She just posted it in the chat there as the bouillon product, and you did the taste test on it.
That is so. The world is incredibly small sometimes,
and this is how we're connected. The universe has brought us all into one.
It's amazing. Stick around. We'll say our proper goodbyes. I'm going to hit the road soon to do another podcast this afternoon where I'm going to be putting Canada on blast yet again, people. So forgive me if you're salty about it. Pat, thank you immensely. I'll get all your links in the pinned comment on Rumble, YouTube, and up in our locals community. Pat, stay strong.
Absolutely, man.
Amazing.
And thank you to everybody in the chat for all your kind words, man. You guys are awesome. And keep up the good fight.
Awesome. Everyone.